Hey everyone, Kelly Bear here. Welcome back or to my channel. Today I am bringing you along on a wee little sort of curiosity I had. Basically, I have recently come into the possession of not one but two different playing card themed styled tarot decks. This one was one that I backed on Kickstarter. This is a UK based creator called Ian Cumptsey, and this one is one that I received from Simon of the Hermit's Cave for my birthday last month. So just to show you the box, is this the Rare Triumphs, is this one, and it's an independent deck, obviously because I backed it on Kickstarter, and it just comes in a little tuck box. It has the little sort of title card and just not even a little white book, like a little white pamphlet or sort of fold out piece of paper. And then this one is a mass-produced one, which is by Ryan Edwards, and it's the Playing Marseille. And you might know Ryan Edwards' work for the maybe Lenormand. He's the artist for that deck as well. And this one comes in a magnetic box, and it's you know, the book's on top, so you get like a full book. I've not read this really yet, and then it comes in the dreaded 2 piles. I probably won't be keeping it in this box, to be honest, just because I do find the 2 piles thing pretty irritating. I'll probably make a pouch for it. I'm not going to go into the specifics of like cardstock and things like that, but I'll just briefly touch on a couple of things. So this deck is taller than this deck. They're roughly the same size. The cards are about the same height, but the artwork of the Playing Marseille it takes up a little bit more of the length of the card. And then this deck, the Rare Triumphs, it has slightly wider borders on the outside edges, and you'll see why, because it's to do with the way that they've numbered the cards, and it's to give room for the numbers. But essentially the artwork's pretty much the same size. I was quite surprised, because I thought that this mass market one would have that sort of playing card linen feel to the cardstock, purely because, you know, it's a playing card based tarot deck, right? So you know, like this one is thinner, but the cardstock feels thinner, but is actually more flexible and feels more durable. And it is, I don't know how much it will, I don't think I'll be able to pick it up on the camera, but maybe you might be able to just see this does have the linen finish. That's all I'm going to go into on that. But basically I was just intrigued to see how these two compared to one another. They're both based on playing cards, but they are different takes on them. So this one I've already done a walkthrough. I think I did that before Christmas, and it's you know, a full look at the deck. This does have slightly sort of slight deviations from the traditional trump card names, which is why I think it is called the Rare Triumphs. The creator did take artwork and ideas from lots of really old decks that are not quite as popular, or not quite as reproduced, or haven't been reproduced much. So it's a really interesting take. I do like it. So yeah, let's dive in. As you can see, it's really tricky to get the lighting right on this. It's trying to get it light so that you can see clearly, but also so it's not glaring off of the cardstock and washing out the pictures. So apologies if I'm still not quite getting this right. I'm trying a bunch of things, but it's trial and error basically. But if you can see here, these both have a hand-drawn feel, but just a very different style. I wonder if I could go in a little closer, if that will help. That might help. There we go. I'm just going to slightly reposition the sorry, excuse me while I just do this. Slightly reposition the ball joint on the camera. Hold on. My goodness, apologies if I'm making you feel a bit nauseous. I'm hoping that's going to help a bit more, so you get a clearer picture of the cards without it washing them out, but you can see they do still have that clean line, that hand-drawn quality to them, except this one, it feels very much like it's coloured in, where this has got that sort of messy, going out of the lines, wonky block print, and I really love that. And I didn't actually, apart from a really sort of cheap Marseille deck, that's very badly photocopied, or very badly reproduced. I don't have a sort of wonky, as I like to call them, wonky Marseille. I think the Jean Noblet is very neat and tidy. It's a tidying up of a deck. The CBD Marseille is very tidy, you know, so it's nice to have a wonky classic style looking Marseille. Anyway, enough waffling from me. Let's have a look at these. So you can see the fool isn't named or numbered in this deck. And here's the backs. I like both of them. I like both backs. So instead of Le Batelier, we have the Worker. So you can already see the deviations. They're looking at each other though. They're like giving each other the eye. So here we've got a worker with all his tools, and here we have the magician with all his tools, or the batelier, more like the sort of street magician, as is traditional in a Marseille. So we have La Papesse and the teacher. And one thing I did mention when I did the walkthrough of this Rare Triumphs Tarot is that it seems that some, you know, women have been taken out of the deck in order to, you know, change the titles, because back then women wouldn't have been allowed to be teachers. So it's a bit like, well, you know, we can suspend disbelief, it's fine. But I'm just, in my head, this is a woman. They've got long blonde hair. I'm going to just call them a woman to keep that balance. So you can see you have the Roman numerals, but then you also have sort of the decimal numerals. Is it called the decimal system? Anyway, so we have see here again, we have the Empress, but then we have the Merchant. So another woman has been overtaken by a male role. The colours are different, so this is very much the traditional colours of that bright red and the bright blue and the bright yellow, those primary colours, with that sort of pale green mixed in. Some use a darker green, and this one uses sort of a dark and a light blue, and this really yummy sort of plum tone, and then a sort of orangey red. I wonder if you can see well enough. Just bring a bit more light in, because I am aware that my phone camera is not the best. So we have the Emperor becomes the nobleman. I'm always a sucker for a card with a dog in, and he's got a bird, a bit like the Nine of Pentacles in the Smith-Waite. I guess that's meant to be sort of taking place of the bird on the shield in this traditional representation. And he doesn't have the scepter, but he's walking his doggy. Nice. The president takes place of the Pope, and he's sort of telling people what to do and governing, but it's secular. There's that separation of church and state. So yeah, really interesting sort of deviations. This was interesting because with the love card, it is just two people and there's no angel, but we do have a wee dog, which reminds me of Dr. Nomi there, and she's holding her stomach, so it looks like she's pregnant, where here we have that much more classic choice feeling, and the cherub, the Cupid at the top there. We have the Chariot and Victory. By the way, I'm talking as if I've seen these before together. I haven't. This literally is the first time, and I sat down to sort of look through them together because, you know, tarot nerd. I was like, I wonder how they compare, and I was like, oh, other people might be interested. I'm going to film it. Why not? And just sort of speak my thoughts aloud rather than just in my head. And you know, if you're finding this interesting, excellent. Thank you for watching. If you are not finding it interesting, what are you doing? Go watch something else, you silly. So yeah, so Victory. We've got swans on water on a boat, and they're sort of, but you get that same idea with the movement, but it's giving it a very specific parameter, isn't it? Victory, whereas the chariot can be victory and success, but it can also be, you know, your chariot running wildly out of control and losing your grip on the reins. So there's a bit more sort of element for interpretation with this Playing Marseille version. Justice is justice, of course, at 8, because it is a Marseille. Quite similar, no real sort of deviation there, apart from the fact that Justice is blindfolded in this one, although the Justice has a third eye in her hat in this one, which is interesting. I'm not sure if I've seen a third eye in the hat of any other Marseille. Let me know if you've seen that in any sort of traditional Marseille decks. That would be really cool. We have the Hermit here and Time, which is really a callback to, from as far as I understand it, to much older decks, because we look at the Hermit and call it, you know, the Hermit's lamp, but actually I think traditionally it was an hourglass that he was holding, so it's called Time. But it does look like the hourglass is glowing. It's got that yellow inside, so it can be seen as both an hourglass and a lamp, maybe, which I like. It also looks like you've got the sun is setting, because you've got this sort of glow against the rocks, which I really like. I really love the fluidity of this one as well, though. Really lovely. So we've got Fortune and Wheel of Fortune. So I think this again is based on a different interpretation from an original deck, an old deck. Excuse me, I'll have a sip of my tea before it goes cold. Lovely rooibos tea. So yeah, balancing on the wheel. It looks like they're dropping coins here. You've got this cornucopia full of coins, and they're dropping the coins into the water, and it almost makes me feel like this person is the decider of fortune, and they are throwing these coins into the water, and whoever manages to capture or eat the fish eating food, right, fighting for the resources underneath the water, they're falling in, or the treasure, finding the buried treasure, right, at the bottom of the sea. This is obviously the turning of the wheel, and sometimes you're at the top, sometimes you're at the bottom, sometimes you're on the way up, sometimes you're on the way down. We have Strength, again another sort of traditional. I love this little kitty, that like using it as a scratching post. I just think that's a really lovely little touch there, instead of a lion. And holding the pillar, which I have seen in some older decks, and here we have Force, much more sort of, again, familiar probably to most of us that use Marseille. We have Le Pendu and Downfall. So he's a bit of an ass. He's going backwards on an ass, and he's pointing, so he looks like he's sort of saying, no, but well, actually, and he's being really wrong, just making me thinking of like dude bros on the internet sort of mansplaining stuff. That's what this card puts me in mind of. And here we have that sort of suspension and hanging. Not so, there are depictions of Le Pendu where there is actually someone who is being hung, and it is consequences. I do feel like this interpretation, rather than someone actually being hung, a bit more sort of open to interpretation. But yeah, more traditional, bit more, again, that was the point of this deck. For the creator wanted to sort of do something a little different. We have the Death card, so Death is on the horse here, which feels a bit more sort of Smith-Waitey. And then we have the sort of classic Death here. I'm always really interested in sort of what's laying on the floor and the way that the faces have been drawn. We've got some hands, we've got a bone, a crowned head and an unadorned head there. But no body parts at the bottom here, just flowers, but red flowers like they are. It makes me think of poppies, actually, the red poppies and the fields of poppies to represent the dead, which is quite interesting. Also loving the sort of like shabbiness of Death's like little outfit. We're rocking like a head tie. Temperance. pretty sort of muchness. I do like that a lot of the seated characters seem to be sitting on the same kind of thing with this sort of floral motif on it. But yeah, pretty, you know, one has wings, one doesn't. This feels a bit more Smith-Waite-y, I guess. Now I'm questioning myself. I can't remember if they like Noblet and some of the other Marseille Distemperance have wings. I'm drawing a blank. My brain lately, I have terrible memory at the moment. 15, Chaos, or Le Diable, the devil, in a more traditional Marseille. This is interesting because you've got this choppy sea, you've got the storm clouds, and I guess they're emitting rain or thunder, I don't know. These could be like sound waves or rain. And then this big sort of sphere, which is just very strange. This one again is a bit more traditional. Thunderbolt, Le Maison du. This puts me in mind of the alternative tower card that you get with Triomphe della Luna by Patrick Valenza. He has a Thunderbolt card as well, which and a classic Maison du, or the tower card. La Maison du, I think, is the House of God, which would traditionally have been a hospital. So that's quite interesting because it sort of looks quite like a fancy tower. Although House of God could also, yeah, be a church. I love all these little goats or sheep. I'm not quite sure what they are there. Oh, the sun's coming out though. I don't know if that's helping or hindering the video. Should I leave it to? Can you see okay? It's been a really odd day. It's been sunshine and then showers and then sunshine and showers. They say in the UK, if you don't like the weather, just wait 20 minutes. Actually, yeah, it's sort of bringing in a nice bit of sunlight onto the cards. Let's hope it stays there for a while. We've got the star, l'étoile. See, again, we've got a woman has been replaced by a man. I mean, that to me makes me think of one of the Three Kings. That it has sort of biblical references. Sorry, I'm just knocking my phone by accident. Sorry. And you know, bearing gifts. So that's what I think that is. There we have the moon. Oh, sort of La Luna. I love these faces. This one is just giving some serious side eye. And this one just looks over your BS. They're like just done with it. And you've got the dogs and the crustacean, the towers, the water, very sort of classic. Here the moon, this looks to be an astronomer. They have what appears to be the little, not a sextant, what's the little sort of caliper type things they use to sort of go across maps and things. And that's maybe an observatory. My headcanon is that that's Greenwich Observatory in the background. Which I quite like. But we've got the sun. And I originally, when I did the walkthrough, I was like, why has she got a bottle rocket? But apparently she is actually spinning. There is a form of traditional spinning that does not involve a spinning wheel. So that's quite cool, because here we've got two boys. And so we've had a woman put back in, you know, it's apples and oranges. Le Changement and Fame, which again, I feel like does narrow down the parameters of meaning in this deck. This one, you know, is familiar to all of us, though the angel looks stoned or drunk or both. It looks like they've been hitting something pretty hard. But you do have this sort of the bugle or the trumpet being blown. It looks like it's Hermes because he's got the wings on his heels, so you get a bit more sort of Greek mythology in there. And Le Monde in this one, Eternity in this one. So this Le Monde feels like, sometimes obviously called the universe in other decks, speaks to space, you know, physical space, whereas Eternity feels like it speaks to time, obviously, which is quite interesting because time and space go together. Time space continuum. So yeah, I think that's interesting, and I do wonder why the peacock sits on the top. I hope this sunlight isn't too much now. And then this deck has a couple of extra cards. So we have the Wanderer, Player, and trickster. So that's quite interesting. And then we get into, I'm just going to move these out of the way because I do know as the piles get bigger, they're going to get more slippy slidey and it's going to be harder to control. So I'm just going to put them to the respective sides. And we're going to go into the minors now. And I imagine, famous last words, I think this might be, I'm going to actually now move my chair because I feel like the sun is, if I do this, look, now you can't see, it's too much sun, dial it back, come on. And that's interesting actually, because I had opened this deck on my birthday. I took it out of the box, shuffled it, did a 1-card reading for Dr. Nomi, and then put it back in its box, and I've not looked at it since. I haven't played with it because I wanted to sit down and do this. So I did have to put it back in order to make this video, but I tried very hard not to really look at what I was just, you know, making sure I was just looking at the symbols quite quickly. So I've not really looked at these cards. So I'm quite interested to see that this is entirely in black and white, which I guess if it was it's a playing card, right? It is going to be in black and white because that's how playing cards are. Whereas this one's a lot more colourful, and here we have a lot of spades, whereas this feels more like spears. And actually, let me just check the little pamphlet that comes in the Rare Triumphs, because let's just see if there's a name for what Ian Cumptsey calls them. No, see, it's just for the trumps, and then there's nothing about what these are actually called. I'm going to call them spears. They don't really seem like spades, but it's interesting because you have this sword and then it goes into like the spade is. This looks very much like kind of tattoo stuff to me, like there's similar kind of feel to that kind of stacking of things. I've got my gauntlet tattoos are sort of stacked items, a bit like this. So we go into the 2 again. It's monochromatic. We've got the more traditional, so this feels like obviously the trumps deviate, but then the pips feel more traditional, except the actual items have been replaced with playing card items, where I think this one, going through this, it's going to be that oh, hang on, is that meant to be that way around? I think, yeah, there we go. That this is going to be more like an actual playing card deck, which is interesting. So it's just turning out a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but I'm having more thoughts about it than I realised. That's interesting because you've got that traditional Marseille where there's something coming from the 2 creating 3, that creation, whereas this is a very sort of, again, playing card feel. The 4... got that stability and something in the mid, you know, that feels quite similar, just different colours. 5, yeah, the layout's quite similar, isn't it? Sort of playing cards. That's slightly different because you've got 3, 3 and the one in the middle, whereas you've got 3, 3 and this one in the middle, but at the top. So you've almost got, I think when Kelly Fitz talks about the stability and then the creation from that stability, whereas this gives a different feel. It feels like these ranks closing in and something stuck in the middle. That's quite interesting. See what I mean? Like even with a pip deck, when you have non-situational or non-scenic cards, a lot of people say, well, how do you read them? And I was exactly the same. How do you read them? But you'll see, you don't have to, you can apply numerology and you can apply, you know, the elemental associations just as you would in the Smith-Waite, for example. And I do feel like my associations for Marseille and for Smith-Waite are different with those sometimes. But then, you know, these are 2 pip decks and the same number, and yet we are getting a different feel, a different message almost. And then once you start to put that in the context, as Tom Benjamin will always say, the context of the question and any other cards in the reading, you're really looking at the flow of patterns, of colours, of shapes. Oh, that's the wrong way around. And so forth. It really does add a lot of nuance and texture to a reading, which I really like. I mean, if you'd told me a couple of years ago I'd be waxing lyrical about you know, pip decks, I would have told you absolutely being ridiculous. That was never going to happen, but here we are. So again, we've got that similar thing where we've got, you know, the couple of rows and the two in the middle, whereas it's kind of the same thing but just vertical. Then what's this one? This is the 10. Oh, hang on a second. 6, 7, 8. Where's the, have I done this? Have I made a boo-boo? Hang on. 9. Oh no, it is 9. I'm getting confused. I thought it was 10 for a second, and 9, so 3 rows of 3. Again, that's interesting because you've got 3 rows of 3, which is like this stacking, and then things growing in between. And then this one, you have this sword through the middle, and then this sort of, these 2 pillars and this going through the middle. Do you see? So there's this, you can read them differently, though they're the same card. I think if you're applying numerology and elemental associations to Pip and Marseille decks, you're getting that that's like your base, and then the actual layout of the elements within the cards, the items within the card, give you that sort of that flavor to it, depending on the deck, right? We have the 10, again slightly different. This is more traditional, where you've got the 9 and then the across the top, which puts me in mind of the 10 of cups as well, which is usually depicted like this. And then again, this is much more playing card. I should also, I don't know if I've got a full playing card deck, because I tend to use them in my crafting projects and my sort of junk journals, but I'll see if I can find a full playing card deck and maybe do a comparison with this one. If that's something, I mean, that's something I'm interested in doing. If you would like me to film that as well, do let me know. Jack of Spades, no title on here. They're both looking in the same direction. He looks very angry, which is interesting. Yeah. Oh, the knight looks pretty angry as well. I do like the horse though. This horse has got a really cool fringe going on there. This one's got a bit more of a spiky do, a bit more funky. This one's got more of a sort of a mullet, sort of business in front, party in the back situation going on. Sort of even, you know what I mean? These, again, same card. This horse is rearing and this knight is looking behind him. This horse is, you know, walking across the ground and the knight is looking forward. Sort of that nuance, that flavour. There's a little sauce on top of that. So we've got the Queen of Spades. She's doing a bit of side eye, whereas she's looking directly to the side. And I don't mind if their body or their head is not turned to either side, because I find it frustrating when you have face cards, you know, whether they're trumps or court cards, where the person is just facing forwards, like throughout the entire deck. But she's facing forwards here, but she is side-eyeing. So there is that sort of, you can still use that directionality and where she's looking at during a reading. So it still works. This one, she's very much facing, it's very obvious she's facing this way. I love that they've both got flowers. This one appears to have a sort of a rose, and this one looks more like a daisy. But really, really nice. Goodness, it is so sunny. Why do I just choose the wrong times to film everything? Okay, so we have the King of Spades. They're quite similar in the sense that, you know, they're facing the same way. They're holding this things in the same arm, same hand. Yeah. And now we are on to... I'm just going to move these out of the way because I just know they're going to start sliding all over the place. We have now this is the one that threw me, because this is round, but it has diamond in the middle. But this is, you know, this is an actual diamond shape. So that's interesting, because it doesn't look like a coin on this one. But you've got that Marseille style on both of them. So the two, so you've got this diamond shape here, you've got the name, so that's very traditional, in the year 2020, and that's 5, 6, 7, so is that 2017? No, 10, take away, oh my god, can I even, yeah, 2017, Was this that old? Or maybe it was released in 2018. I don't know. Goodness, what even is time these days, right? You'll notice there's dots in the bottom of some of these cards just so I can, if I do like to, you know, I do often use reversals with Marseille. I've seen some people that I know that read with reversals with Marseille. It's actually sort of falling out of favour with them, but it hasn't so much for me. I tend to use them only for like 3 card readings because I still feel like I'm getting to grips with the Marseille. I'm really struggling to remember stuff because my memory's been bad. I'm having a lot of problems with information retention at the moment, so I feel like if I've got a 9 card spread and there's reversals shuffled in, then it's confusing. But here, much more sort of playing card. But we've got those little filigrees, like the, oh God, sorry, I keep knocking this. It's a problem when you gesticulate when you talk. I have a feeling my phone is going to cut out because it only seems to film in 35-minute chunks. I'm currently at 30 minutes, so I'm actually going to stop now and then start recording again, and I'll just sort of sandwich the 2 pieces together. Seamless editing magic. Okay, so we're at the 3s. I'm having to sort of block out this sunshine. Not enough light, too much light. Can't bloody win. The 4. So then, you know, there's the coin in that first one, but then it just goes straight to actual diamond shapes. And these diamond shapes look a lot more like playing card diamonds than these ones. But then these have more of a coin feel about them because they're gold. So you could imagine a society that uses sort of diamond ingots or coins rather than round ones. Because not all coins are round, right? Even in the UK, we have some coins that have like the 20p piece and the 50p piece. Those are not strictly round. So I think the 20p piece is is it a hexagon? And I think the 50p is a pentagon. I can't remember actually. I can't remember the last time I handled actual money. I do everything with cards and online these days. The 5. So you've got some elements of this Marseille and the layout is the same. This is again more playing card. This is interesting because you've got more almost like a sort of a rough circle with something in the middle here. Seven, very similar. 8. This is interesting because you've got the 2 rows of 4, whereas this one you've got more playing card again, playing card layout. But those are pretty similar, same layout on those. And same layout on those, just slightly different interpretation of the artwork, obviously, because different artists. This bit might go a little bit quicker now that we're getting into the pips and the quartz. Jack of diamonds. I love that this looks like a long dog like a greyhound or a lurcher or a saluki. Very cool. I love that it's got like a sort of little happy smiley sun face on the cod piece there, which is quite amusing. No wonder he's got a wry smile. And I do like the flower on his chest there. And he's sort of this interesting, the way he's holding this, like it's hanging off of a strap, whereas he's holding his up. He looks pretty cut up about something, doesn't he? Goodness. He looks pretty miserable, and so does his horse. They look sort of trudging. That does feel quite apt though for the knight or the of diamonds, the knight of swords, air. I don't know. And then they look a little sort of contemplative, maybe. The horse is given some side eye though, which I'm enjoying. His leg is really strange. I love that, like wonky drawing. Love it. Obviously it's deliberate as well. It's a sort of stylistic choice. These 2 queens look like they are side-eyeing each other pretty hard. That's quite funny. They're both comparing each other's like flowers and diamonds. Who's got the better? The king, they're both facing the same way. Although this guy, he's got his weapon, whereas this king, and then the diamond is here, whereas this guy, he sort of looks like he's almost tossing the diamond up in the air, sort of carelessly, or sort of with ease, and then holding on to a coin here. So that's quite interesting. Onto the clubs. Again, back to the black and white for this, because it's a playing card deck, and you know, clubs are depicted in black. This, it's probably hard to see because it's so bright at this point, but I'm going to move my light away over here so it's not so much. But this is a lovely plum tone, and you've got all these yods and yods here as well, so that's sort of quite, even the sort of ruffly sleeves, so quite similar there. Got the 2. This is more Marseille, again more playing card depictions, and obviously this has like the number. See, playing cards tend to have these in the corners, whereas this doesn't have any of that. So you've got that sort of same thing, the 2 creating something coming from the 2. Traditional sort of playing card depiction. I like this. See, so you've got 4 things here with a flower in the middle, and it feels like they could be guarding it and protecting it, or making sure something doesn't get out. Whereas in this one, you've got these plants, these flowers, these leaves growing in between. So there's separation between all of these. And are they being kept apart deliberately? Are they trying to come together? So again, you're getting that nuance and that flavour. There's a 5. This looks a bit like a calla lily or a peace lily. Can you see? I can't think of a peace lily without thinking of Hot Fuzz anymore, ever since I saw that film. For those of you who know, you know. 6. Similar layout. Slightly different layout for the 7s. Quite enjoying the sort of monochromatic look of this one though, of the clubs. But then I do like that this one has got this lovely yellow with this plum and pale blue. Pale blue is quite similar to the pale blue in the Jean Noblet, actually. Lots of these little budding flowers here. It's really pretty. There's lots more floral work going on here, where we've just got that single flower on that one. 9. 10. Again, they seem to be going for the sort of 9 with the one at the top, whereas this again is more playing card. And then we get back into the jack. So we've got the jack of clubs. This looks like it's dropping out of from his underskirt, cassock, tunic. I don't know what you'd call it. This looks like it's actually growing out of the ground here. Interesting. See, again, his club is, or walking stick, is upright, whereas his club is facing down. You can read into that. His club is up here. His club is growing out of the ground like a plant. Again, you can read something into that should you want to. You don't have to. It just gives, you know, these are 2 decks based around a very similar theme, and yet their pips can be read so differently. Here we've got the horses looking in the same direction as each other, but here this knight is looking in this direction, and this knight is facing this direction but looking back this way. So again, there's that nuance. His club is floating in the air, like the actual sort of depiction of the symbol, but he's holding a club, whereas his club and the depiction of the club is represented by the one that he is holding. The Queen, oh my god, she is having a day, isn't she? God love her. She looks like she's got a stick up her butt. You can see with her little, she's pulling a sort of dour face, like something is distasteful to her. Oh, I do love Marseille decks. Fairly similar, sort of. Again, the kings seem to be quite similar to each other in these depictions. Although I do get confused with clubs or baton, where you see the king of batons and then he's holding a sword, but then he's also holding a stick, or the stick's now by the side. And I'm like, don't put a sword in his hand, it's confusing me. Okay, so now the final bit. We're in the home stretch, folks. We're in the home stretch. Oh dear. This one's interesting because so up until now, this one had been quite traditional, and as had this one. But now this one sort of goes off-piste, and we've just got a big heart with a sword through it, which gives me very much Smithwaite Three of Sword vibes. But then it's got like a little sort of chain of flowers around it. This looks very much like it could be a tattoo, doesn't it? And then we've got a bit much more traditional. We've got a little blackbird there. I wonder what that means. That's cute. And then we've got the heart on the cup there. So you've got the black and white, but then that punch of red again, which looks really nice. The two, that's interesting because we've got two side by side, whereas here we've got that, and then we've got cups. Cool. What if there's any other cups in any of these other hearts cards here? Again, playing card, straight line, and then that two, something from the two for this one. A coin. That's interesting choice. 5, fairly similar. Some of the middle pip cards seem to be quite similar to each other. Again, that's an interesting layout of the 6. Again, like that sort of almost like a circle. It's protecting this thing in the middle, whereas this is like 3 rows with something running through it. So they could be guarding it, but it could always be something travelling through. This is much more similar again. 8. 9. So we've got a cup in there, sort of background again. It's interesting. 10. And then we come to the final set of this is so cute, little doggy or kitty. I like the little heart there on the blade. That's cool. And it looks like he is actually holding a cup there. I love these little hearts here, down here on his outfit, and that little bit of sort of checker. Gives me sort of slightly Alice in Wonderland feel, off with her head. And the Knight of Hearts. Oh my goodness me, I'd forgotten about that. Just a heart impaled on the end of a sword, whereas this guy, he's holding a heart in a cup. I mean, if that is meant to be an actual heart, that's still pretty gross. Not quite sure what he's holding in his his hand there. I'm imagining it's a scroll, but I mean, you decide for yourself. I mean, if this card showed up with like the devil and the tower and like the lovers, I would definitely read as he's holding something else in his hand, you know, and it is the Knight of Cups, right? So, oh wow, we got some boobage. We've got the Dame du Coeur, Queen of Hearts, and it's just interesting because it's the Dame of Hearts, the Dame, rather than the Regina. Is it Regina? French, I can't remember what French is for queen. Isn't it Regina? I cannot, or is that Latin? Oh my god, I can't remember. But we've got, she's hugging a heart, and you know, whereas she's got her baps out and is you know, holding a cup. No cups in the depictions of the hearts in this one, which is interesting because this one swayed much more playing cardish, but we are seeing more cups in this deck in the pips. And then the king. I mean, he looks like he's trying to scratch an itch behind his head with that sword, but that just, although he's doing the same thing, looks pretty risky. We've got the heart here floating and he's looking at it, but the heart is down here on the floor, almost like it's discarded. And then he's got like, I don't know if that's meant to be a real bird or sort of like a scepter with a bird on it, but it looks like he's almost choking a bird. That sounds rather like a euphemism. So yeah, that is my very long-winded walkthrough and sort of comparison of these two decks. Again, you know, I've done it's a long video because I primarily am doing this for myself, because I wanted to see the differences. I just thought, why not share it for those that might be interested. No one's for being forced to watch, I guess. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, do let me know. I always appreciate a comment. And yeah, do you own both of these decks or either of these decks? What are your thoughts about the sort of changes to the majors in this? And you know, are you considering picking up a playing card style deck or a Marseille deck, or do you use playing card cartomancy? And would you find using a Marseille based around playing cards more confusing because you're used to using actual playing cards? So yeah, just let me know your thoughts and ideas in the comments. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I imagine you have if you've watched all the way to the end. So yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. You all take care of yourselves. Ciao.